Did you know that someone in the United States has a stroke every 40 seconds and every 3.5 minutes? Someone dies from it. After the age of 65, stroke becomes one of the leading causes of death and disability. I still remember the silence that fell over the room when my neighbor, an energetic man who once climbed hills at 70, suddenly couldn't speak. His tongue felt heavy, his words slurred. Within hours, he was in a hospital bed. A stroke had stolen his strength, his voice, and nearly his life. But here in Japan, where I've lived for over 85 years, we've learned that sometimes the smallest habits can protect us from the biggest dangers. A few years ago, I met a remarkable doctor still practicing medicine at the age of 98, who shared a simple 10-second trick that changed the way I care for my health. It starts with your tongue. Before we begin, I'd love to know, where are you watching this from and what time is it for you right now? Please let me know in the comments below. I truly look forward to reading them. And don't forget to subscribe so you won't miss what's coming next. Why stroke risk increases after 60, and what your tongue has to do with it. Have you ever woken up in the middle of the night, heart pounding, feeling a strange tightness in your jaw or heaviness in your head? It's easy to brush it off. Maybe I just slept wrong, we say. But in many cases, these early sensations can be warnings, whispers from the body that the brain isn't getting what it needs. After the age of 60, blood vessels begin to lose their elasticity. Circulation slows. Even more importantly, the part of the body we so often overlook, the mouth, starts to change in subtle but dangerous ways. Muscles weaken. The tongue becomes stiff. Swallowing slows. You may notice your words aren't as clear, or your mouth feels dry and slow when you speak. These are not just signs of aging. They can be red flags. In Japan, we believe the mouth is the mirror of the brain. There is even a saying, when the tongue is lazy, the mind follows. And modern science now supports this ancient wisdom. Studies have shown that difficulties in speech, swallowing, or tongue movement are early indicators of possible cerebrovascular problems, those that affect the blood flow to your brain. One of my dearest friends, a retired calligrapher, started having trouble pronouncing simple words. He laughed it off. But within 3 months, he had a mild stroke that left the right side of his face drooping. It was his speech, not his heart, that gave the first warning. What's happening here is simple. The tongue is deeply connected to the cranial nerves that control much of the brain's communication with the body. When the tongue grows weaker, less mobile or stiff, it signals that those neural pathways may also be slowing down. Blood flow decreases. Risk increases. But here's the beautiful part, because the tongue is so neurologically rich, exercising it even for just a few seconds a day can stimulate those same pathways. It's like stretching your brain from the inside out. That's what the doctor I met told me, and that's what I'll share with you next. Because if something as simple as a small daily motion can keep your speech clear, your brain sharp, and your risk of stroke lower, why not try it? The 98-year-old doctor who changed my life. It was a quiet spring afternoon in Kyoto when I met him. I was visiting my niece at a small local clinic, just a routine checkup, but what I found there changed the way I think about growing old. He walked into the room wearing a crisp white coat, a gentle smile, and the kind of posture you rarely see in someone pushing 100. His name was Dr. Hiroshi Yamada, and at 98 years old, he was still practicing medicine, not because he had to, but because he believed aging was not something to fight, but something to refine, like the way we polish a teacup with each use. He didn't speak loudly. In fact, his voice was soft, almost musical, but every word landed with clarity. When he asked me to stick out my tongue, I thought it was just another odd exam. I chuckled and said, "Isn't that for children?" He smiled. "No," he said. That tongue tells me everything I need to know about your brain, your blood, and even your heart. He explained that the tongue is like a window into the nervous system. In Japan, some traditional practitioners have long used tongue diagnosis as part of health assessment. But Dr. Yamada had fused that ancient view with modern research. He pointed to a framed article on his wall from a Japanese geriatric journal discussing the connection between tongue mobility and stroke risk. Over the years, he told me I've seen it again and again. People begin to mumble, feel their tongue stiffen, and soon after they suffer a stroke. But the opposite is also true. Those who keep the tongue active by speaking, chewing, singing, or even doing specific tongue movements stay sharp longer. That's when he showed me the 10-second trick. He didn't call it an exercise. He called it a conversation with your own brain. He gently circled his tongue around the inside of his mouth from one cheek to the other slowly and smoothly 10 times, then reversed. The whole thing took less than 10 seconds. Do this every morning when you wake up, and before you sleep, he said. It will tell your body that your brain is awake and your blood must keep moving. I asked him how long he'd been doing it. Since I was 70, he replied, I'm still here, aren't I? We both laughed, but in that moment I saw the quiet power of this man. He wasn't chasing youth. He was dancing with time, step by step, breath by breath, and tongue by tongue. How to do the 10-second tongue trick, and why it works. Now let me show you exactly what Dr. Yamada taught me, this little ritual that has quietly become part of my mornings and nights. It's called the 10-second tongue trick, but it's more than just movement. It's awareness. It's sending a gentle signal to your brain that says, I'm here. I'm alive. Let's keep going. Here's how to do it. Sit comfortably with your back supported and your shoulders relaxed. Close your mouth gently. Now, with your lips sealed, move your tongue slowly in a circular motion inside your mouth. Imagine tracing the inside of your teeth with the tip of your tongue from your front teeth along your cheek to the back teeth, down under your tongue and back to the front again. Complete one full circle. Do this 5 times clockwise, then 5 times counterclockwise. That's it. 10 total rotations, about 10 seconds of your day. But here's what's happening beneath the surface. Every movement of your tongue activates the hypoglossal nerve, one of the cranial nerves that connects directly to your brainstem. This stimulation helps improve blood circulation. In the brain supports neuroplasticity and may even enhance speech clarity and swallowing reflexes, both of which decline with age and are early indicators of stroke risk. In Japan, this kind of exercise is part of something called oral frailty prevention. It's a national health initiative. You might be surprised to know that the Japanese government funds programs for the elderly to do tongue exercises in community centers, along with simple jaw and cheek movements. Why? Because we know that when the tongue gets weaker, the rest of the body soon follows. Think about it. Your tongue helps you eat, speak, breathe, and swallow. If it stops working properly, you're at higher risk for choking aspiration, pneumonia, and yes, even stroke. But just as muscles in your arms or legs respond to gentle exercise, so does the tongue. When I first began this habit, I noticed something curious. Not only did my speech feel more fluid, but I was more alert during the day. It became a kind of morning meditation. A moment to wake up not just physically, but mentally. Some mornings I do it with my eyes closed. I picture the movement of my tongue as if it were stirring the air in my brain, waking up the sleepy corners, inviting clarity and calm. It costs nothing. It takes no more time than brushing your teeth, but it could save you from something far worse. So tomorrow morning when you wake up, before you even reach for your cup of tea or coffee, try it. 10 seconds. 10 slow, intentional circles of the tongue. Your brain will thank you. How Japan's way of eating protects the brain and blood vessels. In Japan, we don't just eat to fill our stomachs. We eat to nourish the mind, to support the body, and to live in harmony with the seasons. There's even a word for it, shokuiku, which means food education. It's not about calories or strict diets. It's about learning how food shapes your health, your mood, and even your longevity. When Dr. Yamada showed me the tongue trick, he didn't stop there. He reminded me of another truth, that what you put in your mouth matters just as much as how you move it. Every morning for the past 30 years, I've started my day with a warm bowl of miso soup. It's not just a comfort, it's a ritual. That warmth wakes up the stomach, the tongue, the throat. It makes swallowing easier and gets the blood gently moving after sleep. This is something many elderly Japanese do. You'll rarely see an older person here reaching for cold juice or cereal first thing in the morning. Instead, we favor warm, soft, and fermented foods, things that are easy to digest and good for circulation. Take natto, for example. Fermented soybeans, sticky and strong-smelling, but full of something called nattokinase, an enzyme that helps prevent blood clots. Or wakame seaweed, rich in minerals that support vascular health. And of course, green tea, which contains antioxidants shown to support the heart and brain. It's not just what we eat, it's how we eat. In my home, we sit on the floor to eat. We bow before meals. We chew slowly. We don't rush. There's an old saying here, chew your food like you're counting coins. That means taking small bites and chewing 20, 30, even 40 times before swallowing. Why does this matter? Chewing is not just about digestion, it also activates the same nerves as your tongue. It gets the jaw working. It stimulates blood flow to the brain. One study in Tokyo showed that elderly patients who lost their teeth and switched to soft, fast meals had a higher risk of cognitive decline within just a year. So we train ourselves to keep chewing, to keep tasting, to keep moving our mouths, not just for the joy of food, but for the health of the mind. Sometimes when I sit down for breakfast and feel a little stiff, I do the tongue exercise first. Then I sip warm miso, let the saltiness wake my mouth, and slowly begin chewing my first bite of rice. There's peace in this rhythm, and perhaps more importantly, there's protection. My morning routine to keep my brain sharp and stroke risk low. Over the years, I've come to see my mornings not as something to rush through, but as a sacred time to gently guide my body and brain into the day. After 60, especially after 70, how you begin your morning can set the tone for your blood pressure, your mood, and your cognitive clarity. Here's what my mornings look like, and perhaps you'll find something in it that speaks to you too. I wake early just as the sun begins to touch the rice fields outside my window. The first thing I do, even before I get out of bed, is breathe. I place one hand on my belly and one on my chest. Then I take 5 slow, deep breaths in through the nose, out through the mouth. This is a technique inspired by Ikigai, the Japanese sense of purpose. It helps the heart settle and signals to the brain a new day has come. Then, while still sitting on the futon, I begin my 10-second tongue exercise. Slow circular motions, 5 to the right, 5 to the left. No rush. I imagine the movements waking up not just my mouth, but the entire network of nerves within. Next, I drink a small cup of warm water, sometimes with a pinch of salt or a few drops of lemon. In Japan, we believe warm water first thing in the morning helps wash the sleep out of the veins. It supports digestion and circulation and prepares the body to absorb nutrients from breakfast. Then I step outside and open the window or door, even in winter. The fresh air, even just a minute of it, helps regulate blood pressure and gives the lungs a gentle stretch. While breathing in, I raise my arms slowly overhead, then bring them down. It's a quiet movement, but it lifts the spine and wakes the whole body. Before I eat, I take just 3 minutes for something I learned from a community health center in Osaka, a facial massage. Using the tips of my fingers, I lightly tap and rub along my cheeks under the ears and behind the jawline. Then I gently rub around my temples and the base of my skull. These areas are full of small vessels and nerves. Massaging them improves blood flow to the brain and stimulates the same neural areas connected to speech and memory. Then comes breakfast, warm miso, a bowl of rice, pickled vegetables, and something fermented like natto or yogurt. I chew slowly, appreciating each bite. No television, just quiet or birdsong from the trees. This entire routine takes less than 20 minutes, but it's 20 minutes that in my experience can help prevent what one bad moment might take away, a stroke that robs speech memory mobility. In America, many people are taught to hit the ground running, but in Japan, especially among the elderly, we are taught to stand like the mountain, move like the breeze. What I wish I knew before my husband's stroke. My husband Kenji was the strongest man I ever knew. At 75, he still carried firewood from the shed, still played shogi with our grandson late into the evening, and still had a way of laughing that made the neighbors smile. But one morning, everything changed. It started with something small. He mumbled his words when asking for tea. I thought he was just tired. Then a few days later, I noticed he was chewing more slowly and said his tongue felt lazy. Again, we laughed. "I'm getting old," he said. But deep down, I felt uneasy. Then one night, he stood up from the table, paused, and simply collapsed. It was a stroke, sudden, unforgiving. The doctor said it had been building for months. His blood pressure had been rising, and his arteries showed signs of stiffness, but we hadn't seen the signs clearly. Looking back, the warning was in his voice, in his tongue, in the tiny delays that seemed too harmless to worry about. I didn't know then what I know now, that the mouth is one of the first places the brain shows distress. I wish someone had told us that small changes, slurred speech, dry mouth, difficulty swallowing, can be early signs of poor circulation to the brain. After his stroke, Kenji survived, but he never spoke clearly again. The man who once told long, funny stories now communicated in short whispers, his eyes doing the work his voice no longer could. That was when I began studying everything I could about oral health and stroke. That was when I met Dr. Yamada. And that was when I made a promise to share this knowledge with anyone who might listen. If you are noticing subtle changes in your own mouth, your speech, your ability to chew or swallow, please don't ignore them. These are not just normal signs of aging. Sometimes they are early cries for help. I can't change what happened to my husband, but I can pass along what we've learned in his honor. Every morning, I still do the tongue exercise, and every evening I do it again. Not because I'm afraid, but because I now understand that small movements can protect what is most precious, our ability to speak, to connect, to remember to live. So if you're here watching this, I ask only one thing. Take your time, listen to your body, and treat your tongue as the quiet messenger it is. When the mouth speaks before the stroke. The body is wise, and often it speaks softly, long before anything dramatic happens. In Japan, we have a phrase, "The mouth whispers before the brain shouts," and when it comes to stroke, this could not be more true. Some of the earliest signs of an oncoming stroke don't show up in the arms or legs. They show up right here in the mouth. You might begin to notice that your speech isn't as clear as it used to be. Words feel harder to shape. You pause more. You repeat yourself not because you forgot, but because you didn't quite say it right the first time. Or maybe your tongue feels heavy, almost like it doesn't want to move the way it used to. Chewing feels like more effort. Your swallowing slows down, and sometimes food feels like it's sitting in your throat longer than it should. There may even be subtle signs like dryness in the mouth or a sensation that the tongue is numb or tingly. Each of these on its own might not seem serious, but together they could be your body's way of waving a red flag. What I've learned and what Dr. Yamada confirmed is that these signs often appear weeks or months before a major event. This is your chance, not to panic, but to pay attention, to act. Begin the 10-second tongue exercise. Revisit your morning habits. And most importantly, speak with a doctor, not later soon. When the mouth whispers, it's not weakness, it's wisdom. And if you listen, you just might prevent something far more serious. Small movements, big protection. Sometimes it's hard to believe that something as simple as moving your tongue could change anything. We live in a world that often values big solutions, machines, medicines, surgeries. But here in Japan, and especially as I grow older, I've come to see that the smallest, gentlest actions often bring the greatest protection. 10 seconds. That's all it takes. You don't need fancy equipment. You don't need to leave your home. You just need awareness, a moment of quiet, a choice. The tongue trick may seem odd, even silly at first. But when you understand what it's doing, waking up nerves, increasing blood flow, keeping the brain active, it begins to make perfect sense. Just like brushing your teeth or stretching your legs, it becomes part of how you care for yourself. And it's not just about stroke, it's about keeping your voice strong, your words clear, your meals enjoyable, and your independence intact. In Japan, we say, "Chisana koto karadai kibo no mamori." From small things comes great protection. So even if you only remember one thing from our time together today, let it be this: your tongue is more powerful than you think. And it's never too late to start moving it with purpose. Thank you for spending this time with me. If you've made it here, it means you care deeply about your health, and that already sets you on a brighter path. Growing older is not about decline. It's about becoming more aware, more tender, more wise in how we care for the body that has carried us through so much. If you try the tongue exercise tonight or tomorrow morning, I'd love to hear how it feels. Was it easy? Did you notice anything new in your body? Please share in the comments. I truly read every word. And remember, small daily actions done with intention are not small at all. They are the very threads that hold us steady. This video provides general health information and is not medical advice. Please consult your doctor or healthcare provider for personalized recommendations. If you believe you are experiencing a medical emergency, please call your local emergency number immediately. Until next time, take care of your voice, your breath, your quiet strength, and keep moving gently but with purpose.